Douglas. We're gonna read my dad's story, but she's gonna tell you how the story came along.
Okay.
Then I will read it.
Okay.
So over the years, since Henroy and I were married, Dad would come to visit. He would stay for a week or two and relax, enjoying his jacuzzi bath, Henroy's cooking, spending time with us, and taking walks in our neighborhood. This one particular visit in September of 2012, we were sitting at the kitchen table, Dad, Henroy, Carrie, and me. And Dad said, "I want to tell you my life story so that when I die, you can read it." I clearly remember the looks on our faces, almost of confusion. And before we could even respond, Dad already started. He just took a rant for it. And I grabbed a notebook, and then I realized there was a lot more than a notebook could take. I remember saying, "Dad, hang on, hang on." I ran upstairs, I grabbed my laptop, and we literally just sat at the table, and I typed as he spoke. Once he finished, I saved the document in many places, emailed it to myself, my mom, make sure that we had it in a safe place. I want you to know that once we saved that document, we had not read it again or even looked at it until last week. I want you all to keep in mind, this story is from him. His exact words, his recollections, his dates, his times, his names. We are reading it as if it's 2012. A lot has changed since then, but he was 79 years old. And I have to say, Henry and I even reflected on how impressive at 79 what he could recall. And those of us know that whenever you were with him, he loved to reminisce and tell you stories. We feel blessed to have the opportunity to share this with all of you, just as he had requested.
I was born March 29th, 1933, to Wilfred Douglas and Hilda Johnson in Milford, Clarendon. They never married. I had 4 sisters and 1 brother. My mother, Hilda, had Daisy, and then with Wilfred. Wilfred had Evelyn, Ida, Penny, Basil, after his relationship with Hilda. My mother was very poor, born in Tweedside District in Milford. Wilfred never take care of us, but his mother, Harry Bella Elliott, took care of me and Daisy when I was 3 years old. My mother went to their district to do domestic type work. They paid her 1 shilling and 6 pence per week. She came to visit every month. Although Wilfred didn't take care of us, he lived in the same area and I would see him growing up. Esther Winter, Hilda's mom, and Felix Johnson, her father, were both from Milk River. I was very close to my grandmother, but did not know my grandfather. When I was 7 years old, I would go to the quarry, and with my grandmother, we would break stone to sell to the government for roads. The government measured and would pay accordingly to the measurement. I did this until I was 10 years old. At 10 years old, I started going to school. I had no education prior to this point. I went until I was 13 years old. At 13 years old, I started working to load cane in the wagon at a farm in Springfield, Rowington, and Ramble. Then I started fishing, but my stomach could not handle the sea, so I stopped. So then I started to burn a little coal. I did that on and off until I was 18 years old. At 18 years old, my father passed away from a heart attack due to heavy alcoholism. At 19 years old, my grandmother, Harry Bella, asked Caleb Lewis, a Baptist deacon, if he could give me a farm worker's card. He gave me the farm worker's card. I passed the physical test to come to America. Before I went to America, my first son was born in 1955. His name is Lenton Douglas. His mother's name is Olive Scott. My first trip to America that year was to Florida, where I spent 3 years and cut sugarcane. Then I started to travel back and forth to America until 1964, doing all types of work, all over the northern and southern part of the US, Massachusetts, New Jersey, Connecticut, and Florida. In 1958, my second son, Anil, was born. His mother is Agatha Scott. In 1960, my first daughter, third child, Lorna, was born. Her mother is Daphne Dunkley. In 1963, Claudia Douglas, second daughter, fourth child, was born. Her mother is also Daphne Dunkley. My hobbies were girls, shows, and dance at the time.
son.
Massachusetts. In 1965, I went back to Jamaica, and I assembled in the Church of God, Ground of Truth in Milford, where I am still in the body, a member. In 1966, I started to work at Althor in Milford, where I started as a laborer, then tour operator. I was with them for 16 years, and then I was laid off. Evangelist Lewis told me she had a good friend, Margaret McPherson, but she wasn't sure if the parents would allow Margaret to marry me. So she wrote the first 3 letters to me. Margaret was in Kingston going to a nurse school. Margaret wrote back to Evangelist Lewis and told her that if the brother can't write and can't read for himself, she would not marry him. So I wrote a letter the best I could to Margaret, and she wrote me back, and I said I have to write to her parents. So I wrote to her parents, and the parents called her to see if she knew anything about the letter and what she knew about me. Margaret told that her friend wrote to her and asked if she would marry me. When her parents found out I had 4 kids, they asked her if she wanted to marry me because they didn't think she wanted to marry somebody with kids. The first time I met Margaret was at a church rally in Milford that Evangelist Lewis invited her to. She bought apples and sold them to the folks at the church program. We talked, and she came to see my house. The parents wrote me and said they would like to come up and meet. The parents wrote me and said they would like me to come up and meet them because I had to bring someone that knew me and could speak on my behalf. So I brought Evangelist Hayden to St. Thomas with me who happened to be Margaret's cousin, but I did not know at the time. So I went to a market in St. Thomas and met this by Hayden's sister, who then put me in a taxi, and the taxi dropped me off to Sisters Choco and Lina. They brought me up the big hill where they live, and the mother and father and Evangelist Hayden was there. I said good morning, and we talked, and I asked for their daughter in marriage. So the parents said, "Dee, you say you want to marry anyone with picnic. This brother has 4. Do we love him?" My mother said yes. And Mrs. Elfrida McPherson said, "If you love him, you have to love his children." And then the father said, "Brother Douglas, I don't allow my children to work ground. So if you're going to take her and do that, I might as well keep her and I'll take care of her." Then Mr. Henry McPherson said to Evangelist Hayden, "Cousin?" And I said, "Cousin?" Farther than the north. Then Mr. McPherson said, "Cousin, if you let me down, you're responsible." So then Margaret said she accepted to marry me. I stayed that night in an outside room. They couldn't be together. Wasn't married yet. And I left in the morning. We were engaged about 6 months after. After that, I saw her often on the weekends in Kingston or at church events for about 3 years. Margaret left to Canada for a year, but that didn't work out. So when she came back, we got married on April 20th, 1969.